Somebody shot my dad. I get the killer mentality. I come from murder and tragedy. Single burn home and family. Do this shit for my whole family. I'ma go get me a Grammy. You know that I'm missing you, Granny. Backbone to my whole family. I got to turn for the family. And I'll just tell you, like, and then we're going to move on to the next segment. But this is what I want to say in reference to this whole issue around gun violence and his open door policy. There was an article written on in the Washington Post, might have been 2016, 2017, and it was on the NEAR Act, and it was explaining how there were going to be trauma social workers that were going to be in the trauma units that were working directly with young brothers that we work with in the hospitals that come in that had been injured. And I saw it, and I was like, I'd already been building the program at PG Hospital. It wasn't up officially kind of launched, but it was in the developmental stages. I emailed him, and I think I might have been in contact with Silas first, I believe. Yeah. And I think within like a week, I was down there talking to him about the whole concept. He can verify this story. And from that point on, that conversation expanded into what you see right now with the hospital violence intervention programs that are around the city. Like it was that quick to translate. So I think what we're saying, and what I really love about this conversation and talking to you is all of these things that we're saying, people deal with gun violence. We're not directly saying it, but all of the things we saying touch on it. We don't have to speak and say it's gun violence, gun violence, gun violence, because all of these things are relevant, I think, ultimately to what this show is about, to kind of address it from a grassroots, but then translating that into a policy level.
And Doc, what you said, and what I mentioned about the points of contention for Keegan and I when he first took office, while I was reaching out and saying it was about gun violence in my community. I was like, hey, bro, we need resources. We gotta do something about the gun violence, in this community. You know what I'm saying? So yes, gun violence is very, and again, somebody like Kenyon too is from here. He's been impacted by gun violence. You know what I mean? He's lost family and friends to gun violence. You know what I mean? I know that gun violence is something that's really important. And again, but also somebody who became a prosecutor, right? So, again, sometimes you can, public safety, I think gets lost too in this conversation around poor people, is that we don't want public safety, right? Like we want public safety as well. We might not exactly. We feel like there should be other ways that we pursue public safety, but we want public safety also. You know what I'm saying?
I think Pac said that. Like we want protection too. We want to feel safe
too, for sure. I think every human being, right? I think
to add to your point, Tony, a lot of guys that I came in contact with, at the hospital, they said, man, only reason I carry guns is for protection. I'm not trying to go out and shoot nobody. I'm trying to not be the one shot laying up dead and my mother crying over my body.
Right. And Tony said that it's about defense, right?
Facts. That's it. But that's never the story. Nobody talk about the context. But the Kenosha, the young man in Kenosha, that's gonna be a part of his narrative, though. Right?
He's on the defense. Stand your ground, right?
Yeah, he stood his ground. He's on defense. The president of the United States spoke to the fact that he feared for his life. If that ain't jury tampering, I don't know what it is.
Come on, bro. And you got to look at policies and how unequally they're applied. Stand your ground. Castle doctrine. It works for whites who are exercising their Second Amendment right, but if brothers can't use a stand your ground defense, right? So the exact same thing that you're saying, that brothers are saying, yo, I'm carrying this gun because I'm on defense, like that doesn't apply to us in terms of from a policy standpoint, right? But if you were to apply that same analogy, let's just say to Rittenhouse in that shooting in Kenosha, it applies then. He's on defense.
And you want to know what's crazy, Doc? And I'm gonna say this publicly about MPD, and this is just my personal opinion about him. I'm 32 years old. I've been in this city for 32 years. I've never lived anywhere else for a long period of time. I've never seen a Caucasian or white person pulled over in handcuffs sitting on the curb. Ever.
Yeah.
And I'm 32 years old. Now ask me how many times I've seen people of my color, you know what I mean, of my gender pulled over, sitting on the curb with knees in their back. Like, what does that say about our city, our police department? You know what I mean? Our mayor. Because ultimately the mayor is over the police department, is over the chief. And I feel like for me to say that, it hurts, bro. Like, that shit honestly hurts. I've never seen a Caucasian person pulled over on the side of the road in handcuffs ever. And I've been here 32 years.
So, Che, I think is an excellent point. I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to skip over that, but now that you brought it up. So the book Locking Up Our Own, right? Set in DC, written by James Foreman, which was basically about how the whole carceral apparatus in DC, at least at that time the time period he was writing about, was comprised of Black people, judges, police officer, police commissioner, prosecutors, everybody was Black. And DC had highest incarceration rate in the country. So we got to speak truthfully to that conversation, right? And I'm gonna put this out there. So we work. Shout out to Judge Williams. We work with Judge Williams Center, which I'm also faculty affiliate with, and a former federal judge that was in Greenbelt, in the federal court district in Greenbelt. He recently sent tons of Black men away for years, some forever, right? And now, in retrospect, is looking back and realizes the damage that he's caused, and now is working towards, the liberation of Black men and the policies that put them there. But I think he's kind of symbolic to me, and his story was written in the Washington Post about one of the guys that he actually sent to prison under sentencing guidelines, and now they go around and they speak around the country. So I think his story is symbolic of the fact that he kind of represented that narrative, right, of the Black federal judge that basically sent thousands of his own people to prison. And like, how do in terms of, because we talk about truth and reconciliation a lot, right? Which is weird, because when I think about truth and reconciliation commissions, which we're trying to get off the ground right now, and I often think about the actors who are in it, I never really imagine in my mind, when I'm thinking about it, it's always I'm framing the actors in it as white. But you can also have the actors in it that I want to hold accountable in certain contexts are Black.
Mafia music. I don't really do the computers. I'm in the street with the movers. I'm on the block with the shooters. I'm on the block with the shooters. We got the F's and Rugers. I drip on them, God excuse me. My bitch look like Star.